Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terra's Pride, watching the stars shift back to normal as they came out of hyperspace. The jump had been smooth, just like the dozens of others they had made during their exploration mission. This was supposed to be empty space according to all their charts and scans. Just another routine stop to check for new planets or resources. But something was very wrong. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Carter called out from her station, her voice tight with worry. "You need to see this." Jake walked over to her sensor console, expecting to see the usual empty space readings. Instead, his eyes went wide at what the screens were showing. Dozens of massive ships filled the area around them, locked in what could only be described as a brutal space battle. "How many ships are we looking at?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "At least 40 large vessels, sir, maybe more, and they're all fighting each other." The alien ships were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Some were long and sleek, looking almost like metal fish swimming through space. Others were blocky and angular, covered in what looked like armor plating. All of them were huge, easily 10 times the size of the Terra's Pride. "Pete, are you picking up any communications?" Jake turned to Sergeant Pete Williams at the communications station. Pete nodded, his headset crackling with alien voices. "Yes, sir, lots of chatter, but it's in languages I've never heard before. The computer can't translate any of it." Jake watched through the main viewer as bright beams of energy flashed between the alien vessels. Explosions bloomed in the darkness as ships took hits. Debris scattered in all directions. This wasn't just a small skirmish. This was a full-scale war happening, right in front of them. "Chief Brooks," Jake called to his chief engineer. "How are our stealth systems holding up?" Lisa Brooks checked her readings and frowned. "Not good, Captain. These aliens have some serious scanning equipment. Our stealth field is starting to fail under all their sensor sweeps." That was not what Jake wanted to hear. The Terra's Pride was built for exploration, not combat. They had basic shields and a few small weapons, but nothing that could stand up to the firepower he was seeing out there. Suddenly, something changed. The alien ships stopped firing at each other. One by one, they began turning toward the Terra's Pride. "Captain," Amy said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They've noticed us." Jake felt his stomach drop. Both sides of the alien battle had stopped fighting each other and were now focusing on his ship. That could only mean one thing. They saw the Terra's Pride as a threat. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Don't make any sudden moves." The bridge fell, silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Through the viewer, Jake could see the alien vessels moving into formation around them. Some of the sleek ships positioned themselves on one side, while the blocky armored vessels took up positions on the other. It was like being caught between two angry groups of strangers. "Pete, anything from the translators yet?" Jake asked. "Still working on it, sir." "But wait." Pete held up his hand, listening carefully to his headset. "I'm getting something. It sounds like English?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "English? Are you sure?" "It's broken, sir, like someone trying to speak a language they barely know. But it's definitely English." A moment later, a deep voice came through the ship's speakers. The words were slow and carefully pronounced, with a strange accent that Jake couldn't place. "Unknown vessel. You will identify yourself. Your technology signature is not in our records. State your purpose in this sector." Jake looked around his bridge crew. They all looked as surprised as he felt. These aliens knew English, at least enough to communicate. But how was that possible? "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel, Terra's Pride," Jake replied, hoping his voice sounded more confident than he felt. "We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We didn't know this area was occupied." There was a long pause. Jake could see movement on the alien ships as they seemed to be having discussions among themselves. Finally, the voice came back. "Earth. Vessel, this term is unknown. You say you are from Earth?" "That's right," Jake said. "We're human beings from the planet Earth." Another pause, this one even longer. Jake noticed that Amy was watching her sensors with growing concern. "Captain," she whispered, "more ships are arriving. A lot more." Jake looked at the main viewer, and saw new vessels dropping out of hyperspace all around them. Within minutes, they were surrounded by over 100 alien ships. The two groups that had been fighting were now united in their attention to the Terra's pride. The voice came back, and this time it sounded different. More cautious, maybe even worried. Human beings. This is unexpected. It has been a very long time since we encountered your kind. You will prepare to be boarded for inspection. Do not resist or you will be destroyed. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. Being boarded by unknown aliens was not part of their mission plan, but with 100 ships pointing weapons at them, they didn't have much choice. Commander Turner, Jake called to his first officer, get our diplomatic team ready. It looks like we're about to make first contact whether we wanted to or not. Alex Turner nodded grimly. Yes, sir. Should I have security standing by? Quietly, Jake said. We don't want to appear hostile, but we need to be ready for anything. As the alien ships moved closer, Jake wondered what they had stumbled into. These aliens knew about humans but acted like it had been a long time since they had seen any. What did that mean? Had other humans been out here before? The stars that had seemed so peaceful just minutes ago now felt cold and threatening. Whatever was about to happen, Jake knew that his crew's lives depended on the choices he made in the next few hours. The alien boarding craft looked like a metal spider as it attached itself to the Terra's pride. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge as strange figures in heavy armor moved through the docking tube. Dr. Helen Gray stood beside him, her translation, device ready and her face calm despite the situation. Remember everyone, Jake said to his crew. We're peaceful explorers. Let's try to keep it that way. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 alien beings stepped onto the ship, followed by what looked like guards in dark armor. The leader was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and when it spoke, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. I am Zeth Prime, speaker for the Valdoran Empire, the alien said in careful English. You claim to be human beings from Earth. This is difficult to believe. Dr. Gray stepped forward, her hands raised in a peaceful gesture. We understand your confusion. We're from a planet called Earth in what we call the Sol system. We've been exploring space for many years, but we've never encountered your empire before. Zeth Prime tilted its head, studying her carefully. Your appearance matches the old records, but humans disappeared from this galaxy over 3,000 years ago. How do you exist? Jake felt his heart skip a beat. 3,000 years? That meant humans had been in this part of space before, long before Earth had even developed space travel. We don't understand, Jake said. We've never been in this galaxy before. This is our first time traveling this far from our home system. One of the other aliens stepped forward. This one was shorter and broader, with red skin and only 2 arms. Its armor was different from the others, more decorative and covered in symbols. I am Admiral Kevin Stone, it said in a harsh voice, leader of the Traditionalist fleet. If you are truly human, then you have arrived at a most dangerous time. Dangerous how? Dr. Gray asked. Zeth Prime and Admiral Stone looked at each other. Even though they were clearly from different sides, they seemed to agree on something. Our empire is at war with itself, Zeth Prime explained. For over 200 years, we have been fighting about how our society should be organized. The traditionalists want to keep the old ways where everyone has their place and must stay there. The reformers want to change everything, to give more freedom to all beings. Admiral Stone's eyes narrowed. The reformers would destroy everything our ancestors built. They want chaos instead of order. We want justice instead of oppression, Zeth Prime shot back. Jake held up his hands before the argument could continue. Why is this dangerous for us? Because both sides have been searching for the same thing, Admiral Stone said. Ancient weapons left behind by the first humans who came to our galaxy. Weapons that could end this war once and for all. Dr. Gray's eyes widened. What kind of weapons? We don't know exactly, Zeth Prime admitted. The records are old and damaged, but they say the ancient humans built devices that could change the way entire worlds think and act. Some say they could force peace. Others say they could create perfect order. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Weapons that could control minds? That didn't sound like something humans would build. What happened to these ancient humans, he asked. The two aliens looked uncomfortable. Admiral Stone was the first to speak. They were removed from the Empire. The early emperors decided that human ideas were too dangerous. They feared that human beliefs about equality and freedom would destroy the Empire's stability. So they were killed? Dr. Gray asked quietly. Most of them, Zeth Prime said sadly. Some escaped and went into hiding, but that was thousands of years ago. We thought they were all gone. Jake looked at his crew. They all looked as shocked as he felt. Humans had been in this galaxy before, had been part of this empire, and had been hunted down for their beliefs. Why are you telling us this? Jake asked. Admiral Stone stepped closer. Because your ship carries something we need. Your technology has genetic markers that match the old human records. You might be able to find the weapons that have been lost for so long. And if we can find them, Zeth Prime added, we might be able to end this war and bring peace to the Empire. Jake shook his head. We're not here to take sides in your war. We're explorers, not soldiers. You may not have a choice, Admiral Stone said grimly. Word is already spreading throughout the Empire that humans have returned. Both sides will want to control you and your ship. As if to prove his point, Pete Williams's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're getting reports of more fleets moving toward our position. Looks like word is getting out. Dr. Gray turned to the aliens. How many people live in your empire? Over 1 trillion beings across thousands of worlds, Zeth Prime replied. And all of them are suffering because of this war. Entire star systems have been destroyed, billions have died. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His small exploration ship had somehow become the key to a war that was tearing apart an entire galaxy. What would you want us to do? He asked carefully. Help us find the ancient weapons, Admiral Stone said. Join with the traditionalists and help us restore order to the Empire. No, Zeth Prime said firmly. Help the reformers create a better society where all beings can be free. Jake looked at both aliens, then at his crew. Commander Alex Turner stepped forward. Captain, we need to think about this carefully. Whatever we decide could affect trillions of lives. I know, Jake said quietly. But first we need to learn more about these ancient humans and what really happened to them. Dr. Gray nodded. If there are weapons out there that could control minds, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Admiral Stone and Zeth Prime looked at each other again. Despite being enemies, they seemed to realize that the humans needed time to process what they had learned. You have 1 day to decide, Admiral Stone said. After that, other fleets will arrive and the choice may be taken from you. As the aliens prepared to leave, Jake couldn't help but wonder what his ancestors had been like. What kind of people? Had they been to create weapons so powerful that an entire empire still feared them after 3,000 years? And more importantly, what would happen when those weapons were finally found? Dr. Helen Gray sat in the ship's library, surrounded by alien data tablets that Zeth Prime had left behind. She had been working for 12 hours straight, trying to understand the history of humans in the Valdoran Empire. Her eyes were tired, but what she was reading kept her wide awake. Captain Morrison, to the library, please, she called over the intercom. Jake arrived within minutes, followed by Chief Science Officer Ben Parker and Commander Alex Turner. They found Helen staring at a holographic display showing ancient star maps. What did you find? Jake asked. Helen pointed to a section of the star map. The original human colony wasn't just a small group of explorers. According to these records, over 50,000 humans came through a natural wormhole about 4,000 years ago. Ben leaned forward to study the display. 50,000? That's a significant population. It gets more interesting, Helen continued. They didn't just settle on one world. They spread across dozens of star systems and became integrated into early Valdoran society. Some became traders, others became scientists, and many became teachers. Alex frowned. Teachers? What were they teaching? Helen switched to another section of the records. Democratic principles, the idea that people should have a say in how they're governed, the concept that all beings are equal regardless of their species or background. Jake felt his stomach tighten, and the Valdoran Empire didn't like that. At first they did, Helen said. The early emperors welcomed human ideas because they helped solve problems and reduce conflicts between different species. But as time went on, the emperors realized that democratic ideas threatened their absolute power. Ben was studying another data tablet. Helen, look at this. It's a technical manual about something called harmony fields. Helen took the tablet and her eyes went wide. These aren't weapons in the traditional sense. The ancient humans built devices that could influence how people think and feel, but not by force. What do you mean? Jake asked. Instead of controlling minds, these devices encourage cooperation and understanding between different groups. They help people see past their differences and work together. Alex shook his head. But both alien factions think they're weapons that can force peace or create perfect order. Because that's how they would use them, Helen said grimly. The Valdoran Empire has always ruled through force and rigid social structure. They can't imagine technology being used any other way. Ben was reading more technical details. According to this, the harmony fields work by broadcasting specific frequencies that reduce aggression and increase empathy. But they only work if people choose to let them work. Jake sat down heavily in a chair. So the ancient humans built devices that could help end wars by making people more understanding. But the current Valdorans want to use them as mind control weapons. That's not the worst part, Helen said quietly. She activated another display showing population records. The ancient humans didn't just disappear. They were systematically hunted down over a period of 50 years. But some of them went into hiding. Hiding where? Alex asked. Everywhere, Helen replied. According to these fragmentary records, groups of humans scattered throughout the empire. They changed their names, altered their appearance when possible, and tried to blend in with other species. Ben looked up from his tablet. Helen, this technical manual has activation codes in it, but they're incomplete. It says the full codes are split between multiple locations. That makes sense, Helen said. The ancient humans would have wanted to prevent anyone from misusing their technology. They probably hid different pieces of the puzzle in different places. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the alien ship still surrounding them. So, somewhere out there might still be descendants of those original humans. More than might be, Helen said. I found references to something called the Hidden Network. It appears to be a secret communication system that connects scattered human communities across the Empire. Alex leaned forward. Are you saying there could be thousands of humans still living in Valdoran space? Possibly tens of thousands, Helen confirmed. Living in secret, maintaining their culture and beliefs, waiting for the right time to emerge. Ben was still studying the technical data. If these harmony field devices really exist, and if there are hidden human communities that know how to activate them, then we're looking at the possibility of actually ending this civil war. Jake turned back to his crew. Or making it much worse. If both sides think they can use these devices to control each other, the fighting could get even more brutal. There's something else, Helen said. The records mention a central control facility called the Nexus. It's supposed to be hidden in a place that only humans can find. What kind of place? Alex asked. The records are unclear, but it talks about the place where human dreams were born. Whatever that means. Ben looked up from his tablet with excitement. I think I know what it means. Look at this star chart from the Human Archives. He activated a display showing a cluster of stars arranged in a pattern that looked almost like a constellation from Earth's sky. The ancient humans created a hidden base in a star system that matched the constellation Orion as seen from Earth. They called it their dream of home. Jake stared at the star chart. So the Nexus is in a system that looks like Orion? According to this, yes, and it's protected by defenses that will only respond to humans. Helen stood up and walked to Jake. Captain, we have a decision to make. We could try to find this nexus and the harmony field devices, but if we do, we'll be changing the course of an entire galactic civilization. Alex crossed his arms. And if we don't, this civil war could go on for centuries more. Billions more people could die. Jake looked at his crew, then at the data they had uncovered. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. His small exploration ship had somehow become the key to not just ending a war, but potentially reuniting humanity with lost cousins they never knew existed. "Pete," Jake called over the intercom. "Any word from those hidden human communities?" Pete's voice came back immediately. "Actually, yes, sir. I've been picking up some very faint signals, using the frequencies Dr. Gray gave me. Someone out there is trying to contact us." Jake looked at Helen, Ben, and Alex. "It looks like we're about to find out if we're really alone out here." As if summoned by his words, Pete's voice came over the intercom again, filled with excitement. "Captain, you need to hear this. I'm getting a message in perfect English, and sir, they're saying they've been waiting for us." The voice that came through the Terra's Pride speakers was unmistakably human, but with an accent Jake had never heard before. The words were clear and careful, as if the speaker was choosing each one with great care. "Terra vessel, this is Maria, Santos of the Hidden Network. We have been monitoring your arrival. Are you truly from Earth?" Jake felt his heart racing. Another human, after all these years of exploration, thinking they were alone in the universe. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. Yes, we're from Earth. Are you really human?" "We are the descendants of those who came before," Maria replied. "We have waited 3,000 years for Earth to find us again. But you have arrived at a dangerous time." Dr. Helen Gray stepped forward to the communications console. "Maria, this is Dr. Helen Gray. We've been studying the records of the ancient human settlement. We know about the persecution and the hiding." There was a pause before Maria spoke again. "Dr. Gray, we need to meet in person. But first, you must understand something important. Both Admiral Stone and Zeth Prime are moving their fleets toward the Nexus system. They believe you can help them find the Harmony devices." Commander Alex Turner looked at Jake with concern. "How do they know about the Nexus?" "Because we told them," Maria said sadly. "Some of our people were captured years ago. Under interrogation, they revealed pieces of information about the old human technology. Neither side has the complete picture, but they know enough to be dangerous." Ben Parker was checking his star charts. "Maria, we found references to the Nexus being in a system that looks like Orion. Is that correct?" "Partially correct," Maria replied. "The Nexus is hidden in that system, but reaching it requires more than just navigation. You need biological keys that only humans possess." Jake frowned. "What kind of biological keys?" "Your DNA, your brainwave patterns, and something else that the ancient humans built into the system. The ability to choose freely. The Nexus will only activate for humans who come there by their own choice, not under coercion." Dr. Gray leaned forward. "Maria, we need to meet with you and your people. Can you help us reach the Nexus before the Valderan fleets get there?" "We can try," Maria said. "But you should know that we are not the only hidden humans left. There are 12 separate communities scattered across the Empire. We have been in contact with each other for generations, keeping the old knowledge alive." Pete Williams looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm detecting movement from both alien fleets. They're starting to move toward the coordinates Dr. Gray found." Jake made a quick decision. "Maria, we need to leave this location now. Can you guide us to a safe meeting point?" "Transmitting coordinates now," Maria replied. "But Captain, you should know that once you leave the protection of the current standoff, both sides will consider you to have chosen sides. There will be no going back to neutrality." Alex checked the navigation console. "The coordinates are in an asteroid field about 6 hours away at maximum speed." Jake looked around his bridge crew. They all looked back at him, waiting for his decision. The choice he made now would determine not just their fate, but possibly the fate of an entire galaxy. "All hands prepare for departure," Jake announced. "We're going to meet with our lost cousins." As the Terra's Pride moved away from the alien fleets, Jake could see both sides scrambling to respond. Some ships began following them, while others raced toward the Nexus system. 6 hours later, they arrived at what looked like an ordinary asteroid field. But as they moved deeper into it, Jake began to notice something strange. Some of the asteroids were too perfectly shaped, and there were faint energy readings coming from several of them. "Captain," Amy Carter called from her sensor station, "I'm detecting artificial structures hidden inside these asteroids. And there are ships here, but they're using some kind of advanced stealth technology." A new voice came over the communication system, this one belonging to a man with a slight accent. "Terra's Pride, this is David Chen of Settlement 7. Welcome to Haven Station." The asteroids around them began to shift and move, revealing a hidden space station built inside the asteroid field. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen, combining human design principles with alien technology in ways that seemed both familiar and strange. "Permission to dock?" Jake asked. "Granted. Bay 7 is opening for you now." As they docked, Jake could see other ships in the station's bays. Some looked human in design, but others were clearly built using alien technology. All of them had the same feeling of being both familiar and foreign. Maria Santos was waiting for them at the airlock. She looked completely human, but her clothes were a mixture of styles that Jake didn't recognize. Behind her stood a dozen other people, all clearly human but with the same mixed appearance. "Welcome to Haven Station," Maria said as they shook hands. "We are what remains of the original human colony, plus those who have joined us over the centuries." Dr. Gray looked around in amazement. "How many of you are there?" "Here at Haven Station, about 3,000, Maria replied. "Across all 12 hidden settlements, nearly 50,000. We have kept human culture alive while adapting to life in the Valdoran Empire." David Chen stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, we need to talk about the Nexus and the Harmony devices. The situation is more complex than the historical records show." "Complex how?" Jake asked. "The Harmony devices don't just promote cooperation," David explained. "They were designed to do something much more ambitious. They can restructure entire societies by helping people overcome the fear and hatred that keeps different groups apart." Maria nodded grimly. "But if they fall into the wrong hands, they could be used to enforce artificial harmony by suppressing all disagreement and individual thought." Jake felt his stomach drop. "So they could create a totalitarian state where everyone thinks the same way?" "Exactly," David said. "That's why our ancestors scattered the activation codes and hid the Nexus. They knew that such powerful technology had to be protected." Ben Parker looked at the hidden humans with curiosity. "What do you think we should do?" Maria and David exchanged glances. "We think you should help us reach the Nexus first," Maria said. "Not to claim the devices for any one side, but to make sure they're used the way they were intended." "And how were they intended to be used?" Alex asked. David smiled for the first time since they had met. "To give every world in the Empire the choice of how to govern itself. To break down the barriers between species and let people decide their own futures." Jake looked at his crew, then at the hidden humans who had waited 3,000 years for this moment. "How do we get to the Nexus before the Valdoran fleets?" "We have a plan," Maria said. "But it will require all of us working together. And Captain, once we start this, there will be no turning back. We will either save the Empire or watch it tear itself apart completely." As alarms began sounding throughout Haven Station, Pete's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, long range. Sensors are detecting massive fleet movements from both sides. It looks like every ship in the Empire is heading for the Nexus system." Jake took a deep breath. The final confrontation was about to begin. The Nexus system was unlike anything Jake Morrison had ever seen. The stars were arranged exactly like the constellation Orion as viewed from Earth, but in the center where Orion's belt would be, a massive space station hung in the darkness. It was clearly ancient, built from materials that seemed to shift and change color as they watched. "There it is," Maria Santos said from beside Jake on the Terra's Pride Bridge. "The last gift our ancestors left for us." But they were not alone. Hundreds of Valdoran ships surrounded the station, split into 2 distinct fleets. The traditionalist forces under Admiral Stone held one side, while the reformer ships commanded by Zeth Prime controlled the other. Both sides had their weapons trained on the ancient human station. "Captain," Amy Carter called from her sensor station. "Both fleets are demanding that we choose a side. Admiral Stone says if we don't join him, he'll consider us enemies. Zeth Prime is saying the same thing." Jake looked at the massive station floating between the two hostile fleets. "Maria, how do we get to the station with all those ships in the way?" Maria smiled grimly. "The same way our ancestors protected it. Watch this." She activated a device that David Chen had given her before they left Haven Station. Immediately, the ancient station began to glow with a soft blue light. Energy fields appeared around it, creating a barrier that pushed the alien ships away. "Sir, station is protected." David Chen's voice came over the radio from his ship, which was approaching from another direction. "It will only allow humans to approach. But we need to hurry. Those defensive fields won't last forever." As the Terra's Pride moved toward the station, Jake could see the alien ships trying to follow. But each time they got close to the energy barrier, their ships were gently but firmly pushed back. Admiral Stone's angry voice filled the communications channel. "Humans, you will share this technology with the traditionalist faction, or we will destroy you when you emerge." Zeth Prime's voice came right after. "Do not listen to the oppressors. The reformers are the rightful inheritors of this ancient knowledge." Jake ignored both of them and focused on docking with the ancient station. As soon as they were inside, he could feel something different in the air. The station seemed alive, somehow responding to their presence. Maria led them through corridors that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. The walls seemed to pulse with a gentle light that reminded Jake of a heartbeat. "The harmony devices are in the central chamber," Maria explained as they walked. "But before we can activate them, the station needs to confirm that we understand what we're doing." They entered a massive circular room with a dome-shaped ceiling that showed the stars outside. In the center of the room stood a pillar of light that reached from floor to ceiling. As they approached, the pillar began to speak, in a voice that sounded like every human who had ever lived. "Welcome, children of Earth. I am the Guardian, the last consciousness of those who came before. You have found this place in the galaxy's darkest hour. What do you seek?" Jake stepped forward. "We want to end the war that's tearing the Empire apart. But we want to do it the right way." "And what is the right way?" the Guardian asked. Dr. Helen Gray joined Jake in front of the pillar. "By letting people choose their own governments, by helping different species understand each other instead of forcing them to obey." The Guardian was silent for a long moment. Then images began appearing in the dome above them, showing the civil war raging across the galaxy. Planets burning, refugees fleeing their homes, children growing up knowing only conflict. "The harmony devices can end this," the Guardian said, "but they must be used wisely. They cannot force peace, but they can help people find it themselves." Ben Parker looked up at the images. "How do they work exactly?" "They broadcast frequencies that reduce fear and increase empathy," the Guardian explained. "When people are less afraid, they are more willing to listen to each other. When they have more empathy, they can understand different points of view." Commander Alex Turner frowned. "But both alien factions want to use them to control people." "Which is why the choice must be yours," the Guardian said, turning its attention to Jake. "You represent the new humans, those who still remember the values of freedom and choice. The question is, will you activate the devices for the entire Empire? Or will you give each world the power to choose for itself?" Jake felt the weight of trillions of lives pressing down on him. If he activated the devices for the entire Empire, he could end the war immediately. But he would also be imposing his will on every being in the galaxy. "What happens if we give each world the choice?" Jake asked. "Some will choose harmony and cooperation," the Guardian replied. "Others may choose to continue fighting. Some may choose isolation, but all will choose freely." Maria stepped forward. "Captain, our people have lived in hiding for 3,000 years, keeping the dream of freedom alive. We believe that freedom is worth the risk." Outside, the alien fleets were growing impatient. Admiral Stone's threats were getting louder, and Zeth Prime was demanding immediate action. David Chen's voice came over the radio. "Captain, the defensive fields are weakening. We don't have much time." Jake looked at his crew, at Maria and the other hidden humans, and at the Guardian waiting for his decision. He thought about Earth, about the values that had driven humanity to explore the stars in the first place. "Guardian," Jake said finally, "we choose freedom. Give each world the right ability to activate the harmony devices for themselves." The pillar of light pulsed brighter. "Are you certain? This path will be more difficult. Not all worlds will choose peace." "Yes," Jake said firmly. "People have the right to make their own mistakes and their own successes." The Guardian seemed to smile, though it had no face. "Then you truly are children of those who came before." The station began to hum with power. All around the galaxy, hidden transmitters that had been sleeping for 3,000 years came to life. On every world in the Valdoran Empire, people received the same message in their own languages. The message was simple: you now have the choice to activate harmony fields on your world. These fields will help reduce conflict and increase understanding. Between all beings, the choice is yours alone. The results were immediate and surprising. Some worlds activated the harmony fields right away. Others chose to wait and see what happened. A few rejected the offer entirely, but the most important result was that the civil war began to slow down. When people realized they had a choice, many of them chose to stop fighting and start talking. Admiral Stone's fleet was in chaos as individual ship captains began making their own decisions. Some stayed loyal to the traditionalist cause, but others decided to return home to their families. Zeth Prime's forces were experiencing the same divisions, but for them it meant that their goal of reform was actually happening, just not in the way they had expected. "Captain," Pete Williams reported, "we're getting communications from all over the Empire. Many planets are declaring independence from both factions. They're forming their own governments." Jake smiled as he watched the dome showing peaceful demonstrations replacing battles on dozens of worlds. And that's exactly what should happen. The Guardian's voice filled the chamber one last time. The galaxy will never be the same. Some worlds will choose democracy like yours. Others will choose different paths. But all will choose freely. As the Terra's Pride prepared to leave the Nexus station, Jake realized that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or superior firepower. It was the simple idea that every being had the right to choose their own destiny. Maria, Santos joined him on the bridge as they headed home. "What will you do now, Captain?" Jake looked out at the stars, which seemed brighter somehow. "We'll explore, we'll learn, and we'll help anyone who asks for it, but we'll never force our beliefs on others." "That," Maria said with a smile, "is the most human thing you could say." The Civil War was ending, not with conquest, but with choice. And throughout the galaxy, the word human was becoming synonymous with freedom.